Welcome to Chapter 4, Quadratic Equations. Here the highest power is 2, and that single change gives an equation up to 2 answers instead of 1. You'll first learn to spot the standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Then you'll master 3 ways to find the roots, factorizing by splitting the middle term, completing the square, and the quadratic formula that always works. You'll also learn to read the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, to tell how many real roots exist before solving. We finish with word problems and full exam practice, every step gentle and complete.
In the darkness of the unknown, a stuck student finds their way, the greatest minds, and turn confusion into brilliance.
Before we solve a single equation, let's understand where the whole machinery of this chapter comes from, because completing the square, the quadratic formula, and the discriminant are really one idea seen 3 ways. And that one idea is a picture. Take the expression x squared plus bx. Don't read it as symbols, read it as area. X squared is a blue square whose side is x, so its area really is x times x. And bx is a green rectangle that is x tall and b wide, so its area is b times x. Setting them side by side, the 2 pieces together are exactly the amount of area named by x squared plus bx. Here's the clever first move. We want to turn this L-shaped-ish figure into a genuine square, because a square is the one shape whose area we can undo with a square root. So cut that green rectangle straight down the middle into 2 thin strips. Each strip keeps its full height x, but now each is only half as wide, b over 2 wide. We haven't added or removed any area, we've just split one rectangle into 2 equal halves so we can rearrange them. Now watch why we split it. Leave one strip glued to the right of the blue square, and swing the other strip up onto the top. See what's happening? The 2 half strips now hug to neighboring sides of the square, one along the right edge, one along the top, wrapping it into an L shape. We are trying to grow the blue square outward equally in both directions so the result can become a bigger square. But look, the L doesn't quite close up into a full square. There's a corner missing at the top right, a little square hole. And notice its exact size, it's b over 2 tall, because that's the width of the strip we laid on top, and b over 2 wide, because that's the width of the strip on the right. So the gap is precisely b over 2 by b over 2, and its area is b over 2 squared. That number is not a guess, the geometry hands it to us. And now the phrase, completing the square, means exactly what it says, it is literally snapping that one missing corner into place. Add that little b over 2 squared tile, and the L closes up into one big, perfect, solid square. Its side is x, the original, plus b over 2, the strip we wrapped around, so the whole figure is x plus b over 2, all squared. That's why the method is called completing the square. We complete a real square. So here is the identity the picture just proved, x squared plus bx, plus that corner b over 2 squared, equals x plus b over 2, all squared. Read it right to left and it says any perfect square expands into an x squared, a middle term, and a constant. Read it left to right and it says, the direction we care about, that if you're handed x squared plus bx, you can always force it to become a perfect square just by adding the right corner, b over 2 squared. That single identity is the whole trick of this chapter, and everything else falls out of it. Now here's the payoff. Most students memorize the quadratic formula as a magic spell, with no idea where it's from. But it isn't magic at all, it's just completing the square done once, in general. So instead of doing it on numbers, let's do it on the general equation ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, with letters standing in for every possible quadratic. Whatever we get at the end will be true for all of them at once. First, our identity only worked when the square's coefficient was a plain one, so divide the whole equation by a and move the constant across. That gives x squared plus b over ax equals minus c over a. Now the middle coefficient is b over a, so from the picture the corner we must add is half of that, squared, b over 2a, squared. Add it to both sides so the balance is kept, and the left side folds up into exactly the perfect square x plus b over 2a, all squared. On the right, combining the fractions gives b squared minus 4ac over 4a squared. Keep your eye on that top, b squared minus 4ac, it's about to become important. Now finish it. The left side is a single square, so we can undo it with a square root, and taking a square root always allows a plus or a minus, which is exactly where the two roots come from. That gives x plus b over 2a equals plus or minus the root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Move b over 2a to the other side, and out drops the quadratic formula. X equals minus b plus or minus the root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. We didn't memorize it, we built it. And because we used only letters, it is now true for every single quadratic there will ever be. That's why it never fails. One quantity in that formula quietly controls everything, the piece under the square root, b squared minus 4ac. Let's see why. Here is the graph of a quadratic, and a quadratic always draws a parabola, this smooth U-shaped curve. Now, the roots are the values of x that make y 0, and y is 0 exactly where the curve sits on the x-axis. So the roots are the points where the parabola crosses the x-axis. That's the crucial link. Solving the equation is the same as asking where this curve meets the axis. Right now the parabola dips well below the axis, so on its way down and back up it slices through the axis at two separate points, that's two real, distinct roots. And look at the number in the corner, b squared minus 4ac is positive. Here's the connection. In the formula we take the square root of that number, and a positive number has a real square root, with a plus and a minus branch, so we get two different answers. Now watch as I slowly lift the whole parabola upward. The two crossing points slide toward each other, closer and closer. And at the exact instant the lowest point of the curve, its vertex, just touches the axis, the two crossings collide and become a single point, one repeated root. Look at the number now, b squared minus 4ac has hit exactly 0. That makes sense, the square root of 0 is just 0, so the plus and the minus give the same answer, and the two roots fuse into one. Lift it just a touch more and the whole parabola floats up, clear of the axis. Now it never touches the line at all. There is no x where y is 0, so there are no real roots. And the number has crossed below 0. b squared minus 4ac is now negative. That's the deepest reason of all. In the formula we'd be asking for the square root of a negative number, and no real number squares to give a negative, so no real solution can exist. The graph and the algebra are telling us the very same thing. So step back and see the whole story. That one number under the root, b squared minus 4ac, single-handedly decides the fate of every quadratic. If it's positive, we get two roots. If it's exactly 0, we get one repeated root. And if it's negative, we get none. Because it discriminates between the three cases, it earns its name, the discriminant. And the beauty is you can compute it in one line without solving anything, and already know how many roots to expect. And that's the entire chapter braided into one idea. Completing the square is nothing more than filling a missing corner to make a real square. That's where it begins. Run that exact same move on the general equation and it doesn't just solve one problem. It hands you the quadratic formula for every problem, so the formula is learned, not memorized. And sitting inside that formula, under the root, is the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, which tells you at a glance whether the parabola cuts, kisses, or floats above the axis to roots 1 or none. Hold that one picture in your head, and everything we solve next will feel obvious. Now let's work through every example and exercise together. Let's walk through all 9 insert examples together, one gentle step at a time. Watch how the same 3 ideas from the concept, forming an equation, factorizing or completing the square, and reading the discriminant, keep coming back. Once you see them recur, quadratics stop being a list of tricks and become one method. 2 everyday stories that quietly hide a squared unknown. Let's plan before we compute, because a clear plan is half the battle in word problems. Our strategy has 3 moves: name one unknown with a letter, express every other quantity in terms of that same letter, and then translate the sentence that gives a product into an equation. So for part 1, let John's currentish count start from X marbles. Why can we get Jeevanti's count for free? Because we are told the 2 of them together have 45. If John has X, whatever is left of the 45 must be Jeevanti's, so Jeevanti has 45 minus X. Notice we've captured both people with a single letter. That's the whole point of naming well. Now the story says each of them loses 5 marbles. Losing means subtract, so John drops to X minus 5, and Jeevanti drops to 45 minus X minus 5, which tidies to 40 minus X. These are the counts they hold now. Here's the sentence that creates the equation. The product of what they now have is 124. Product means multiply, so we multiply their 2 current counts together and set it equal to 124. This is the moment a word problem becomes algebra. Let's open the brackets carefully, multiplying each term in the first by each in the second. X times 40 is 40x, x times minus x is minus x squared, minus 5 times 40 is minus 200, and minus 5 times minus x is plus 5x. Take your time here. Sign slips are the number 1 cause of wrong answers. Now gather like terms. The 40x and 5x combine to 45x, and to reach standard form we sweep everything onto one side, leaving 0 on the other. Watch the leading term, it came out negative. A negative x squared is awkward to read and factor, so multiply every term by minus 1 to flip all the signs and make the leading coefficient positive. This changes nothing about the solutions. It's the same equation wearing tidier clothes, and there's our first quadratic. On to part 2, the toys. Same opening move, name the unknown. The thing we're actually asked to find is how many toys were made, so let that be X. Always let X be the quantity the question wants. The cost of each toy is given as 55 minus the number of toys, which is 55 minus x. This is the subtle bit that makes it a quadratic. The price per toy itself depends on x, so more toys means cheaper toys. Total money spent is simply the number of toys times the cost of each toy. Count times price is always total. That equals the given 750, so x times 55 minus x equals 750. Multiply out, and again move everything to one side so it reads as something equals 0. Flipping signs to keep x squared positive, we land on our second standard form quadratic. So notice the pattern that made both of these quadratic. In each story, two quantities that both depended on x were multiplied together. Whenever you multiply a thing involving x by another thing involving x, the x's multiply and you get x squared. That's the fingerprint of a hidden quadratic. A product of two quantities clue almost always pushes the unknown up to power 2. Expand fully, then look at the highest power that survives. First, what does quadratic even demand? By definition, it needs a genuine x squared term. The standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c with a not 0. The trap is that an equation can show an x squared on both sides that secretly cancels. So the only honest test is to expand everything, tidy up, and see whether an x squared truly survives at the end. For part 1, expand the square on the left. Remember, x minus 2 squared is not x squared minus 4. It's x squared minus 4x plus 4, using the full a minus b squared pattern. Then the plus 1 tags along. Tidy the constants on the left. 4 plus 1 is 5. Nothing dramatic yet, just housekeeping so the next step is clean. Now sweep every term to the left so the right becomes 0. The 2x moves over as minus 2x joining minus 4x to give minus 6x, and minus 3 moving over becomes plus 3, joining the 5 to give 8. Look at what remains, an x squared term with coefficient 1, alive and well. So this genuinely is a quadratic. The verdict is yes. Part 2 looks quadratic too, but let's not trust the look. Expand both sides. X times x plus 1 is x squared plus x plus 8, and x plus 2 times x minus 2 is a difference of squares, x squared minus 4. Here's the revealing move. Subtract x squared from both sides. Watch the x squared vanish completely because it appears identically on each side. That's the cancellation the definition warned us about. With the x squared gone, the highest power left is just x to the first, a plain linear equation. So despite its quadratic-looking start, this one is not a quadratic at all. So the lesson is, never judge a quadratic by its cover. Both equations flaunted an x squared, yet only one kept it after simplifying. Always expand and collect first. The tidied equation, not the raw one, is what tells you the truth about the highest surviving power. Split the middle term so the equation factors into two brackets. Let's understand why factorization even works before we do it. Our goal is to rewrite the quadratic as two brackets multiplied together, because a product equals 0 only when one of the pieces is 0. That's the whole power move. To find those brackets, we split the middle term into two parts, and the parts we need have a special property. Their product is a times c, and their sum is b. Here a times C is 6 times minus 2, which is minus 12, and B is minus 1. So we are hunting for two numbers that multiply to minus 12 and add to minus 1. Why these two conditions? The product A point C guarantees the algebra rebuilds correctly, and the sum B guarantees the middle term stays the same. Both must hold at once. Let's find them. A negative product means the two numbers have opposite signs. Testing pairs that multiply to 12, 3 and 4 fit, and to get a sum of minus 1 we make the bigger one negative, minus 4 and plus 3. Check, minus 4 times 3 is minus 12, and minus 4 plus 3 is minus 1. Perfect! Now rewrite the single middle term minus x as those two pieces, minus 4x plus 3x. Notice minus 4x plus 3x really is minus x, so we've changed nothing, just unfolded the middle so we can group it. Bracket the four terms into two neighboring pairs. The plan is to pull a common factor from each pair and reveal a shared bracket. From the first pair take out 2x leaving 3x minus 2. From the second pair take out 1, always keep it as 1, don't drop it, also leaving 3x minus 2. And there's the magic, the same bracket appears in both. Since 3x minus 2 is common to both terms, factor it out to the front, and what's left behind, 2x plus 1, becomes the second bracket. That shared bracket appearing is the signal that our two split numbers were correct. Now use the zero product idea we started with. If two things multiply to 0, at least one of them must be 0. So we split into two easy linear equations, 3x minus 2 equals 0, or 2x plus 1 equals 0. Solve the first, add 2, divide by 3, giving x equals 2/3. Solve the second, subtract 1, divide by 2, giving x equals minus a half. Two brackets, two roots, exactly what a quadratic should give. Never skip the check when it's quick. Put x equals 2/3 back into the original. 6 times 4 9 is 8/3, minus 2/3 is 6/3 which is 2, minus 2 is 0. It satisfies the equation, so we can trust our roots. So the engine of every factorization is this. Split the middle term into two numbers whose product is a point C and whose sum is B, then group and pull out the common bracket. Master those two conditions and you can factor any quadratic that factors at all. Surds factor the same way, the numbers just wear square roots. Don't let the square root scare you. The method is exactly the same as before. We still split the middle term into two parts whose product is a point C and whose sum is B. The only difference is those parts now carry surds. Here a times C is 3 times 2, a clean 6, and B is minus 2 root 6. So we need to split minus 2 root 6x into two pieces that multiply to give the 6x squared word from a point C and add back to minus 2 root 6x. Here's the neat observation. Root 6 times root 6 is just 6, and root 6 plus root 6 is 2 root 6. So the two equal pieces minus root 6x and minus root 6x fit both conditions perfectly. Equal pieces already hint the answer will be a repeated root. Rewrite the middle term as that split, so the four terms are ready to group. Group into two pairs, watching the sign carefully as we pull the minus outside the second pair. Now factor cleverly. The trick with surds is to rewrite coefficients using roots. 3 is root 3 times root 3, and root 6 is root 3 times root 2. Pull root 3x from the first pair and root 2 from the second, and both leave the identical bracket root 3x minus root 2. Factor out that common bracket. Look what we get, the same bracket multiplied by itself, a perfect square. That's the algebra confirming our equal split. Because both factors are identical, setting them to 0 gives the very same equation twice. That's what a repeated root means. So we just solve root 3x minus root 2 equals 0, once. Move root 2 across and divide by root 3, giving x equals root 2 over root 3, which we can write neatly as the root of 2/3. Both roots are this single value. Connect this back to the concept. A repeated factor means the two roots coincide into one, and geometrically that's the parabola whose vertex just kisses the x-axis instead of cutting through it. Whenever the split gives two equal pieces, expect exactly this. Consecutive lets one letter carry both numbers. The key word here is consecutive. It means the two integers sit right next to each other, differing by exactly 1. So if we call the first one x, the very next one is x plus 1. This is why one letter can carry both numbers. The word consecutive does the work of the second variable for us. Now translate, the sum of their squares is 365, straight into symbols, square the first, square the second, add them, set equal to 365. Squaring both is what will produce the x squared, so we can already feel a quadratic coming. Expand the squared bracket using x plus 1 all squared equals x squared plus 2x plus 1. Don't fall for x squared plus 1, the middle 2x is essential. Combine the two x squared terms into 2x squared, and carry the rest along. Move the 365 to the left so the equation reads, something equals 0. That's the standard form every solving method expects. Before factoring, notice every coefficient, 2, 2, and 364, is even, so divide the whole equation by 2. Smaller numbers make the split far easier and can't change the roots. Split the middle term. We need product minus 182 and sum plus 1. Since 182 is 13 times 14 and we want a sum of plus 1, take plus 14 and minus 13. Check. They multiply to minus 182 and add to plus 1. Group the pairs and take the common factor from each. The shared bracket x plus 14 confirms the split, so pull it out to the front. Zero product rule. Set each factor to 0, giving x equals minus 14 or x equals 13. Now the reality check. The problem demands positive integers, so minus 14 is impossible and we reject it outright. Keep x equals 13, and its consecutive partner is 14. The takeaway that matters for every word problem, algebra will happily hand you both roots, but the story is the final judge. Here, positive integers quietly discards the negative root. Always reread the question after solving and throw out any answer the situation forbids. Number times costage equals total. That's the quadratic. Same opening move as always. Name the quantity we are asked for. The question wants the number of articles, so let that be x. Everything else in the problem will be built on this x. Now decode the phrase 3 more than twice the number of articles for the cost of each. Twice the number is 2x, 3 more than that is 2x plus 3. And here's why this becomes a quadratic. The price per article isn't fixed, it grows with x. Total cost is the number of articles times the cost of each. Count times price gives total spend. That equals the given 90. So x times 2x plus 3 equals 90. Two things containing x are being multiplied, so x squared is on its way. Multiply out to 2x squared plus 3x, then move the 90 across to reach standard form equal to 0. Split the middle term. Since a is 2, the product to match is a point C, that's 2 times minus 90, minus 180, and the sum must be 3. The pair plus 15 and minus 12 works. They multiply to minus 180 and add to 3. Group into two pairs, minding the sign when we bracket the second pair with a minus outside. Take x from the first pair and 6 from the second, both leaving the bracket to x plus 15. That common bracket lets us factor into two brackets, a two-factor form. Zero product rule gives x equals minus 15 halves or x equals 6. Reality check. You cannot make a negative number of pottery articles, and you certainly can't make a fraction of 1, so minus 7.5 is doubly impossible. Only x equals 6 survives. Finally, answer the second thing asked, the cost of each article. Substitute x equals 6 into 2x plus 3, giving 2 times 6 plus 3, which is 15 rupees. Again, the physical situation filters the maths. A count of objects must be a positive whole number, so the negative fraction is discarded on site. And notice we finished by answering both parts the question asked, the count and the price, not just the value of x. Reshape the left side into a perfect square, then take roots. This is the very method we saw geometrically in the concept, filling in the missing corner to make a perfect square. The goal is to rebuild the left side into something squared, because then we can undo it with a square root. But the corner filling only works when the x squared has coefficient 1, so our first move is to divide the whole equation by 5. Push the constant over to the right, clearing the left to hold only the x squared and x terms. That's the part we're going to shape into a square. Now find the corner. Recall from the picture that the piece to add is half the middle coefficient, then squared. Half of minus 6/5 is minus 3/5. This is the Beauvais of the geometry. Add its square, 9/25, to both sides, that's non-negotiable. Add it to only one side and you've changed the equation. Add it to both and the balance holds while the left becomes completable. The left side is now exactly a perfect square, x minus 3/5, all squared. That's the corner snapping into place, just like the animation. Meanwhile, write the right side over the common denominator 25. Add the fractions on the right. 10 plus 9 over 25 is 19 over 25. Now the whole equation says a square equals a positive number, and positive is the good case. It means real roots are coming. Take the square root of both sides to undo the square, and here's the crucial detail. A square root splits into plus and minus, which is precisely where the two roots are born. Forget the plus or minus and you lose half your answer. Finally, add 3/5 to both sides to isolate x. and combine over the single denominator 5, giving x equals 3 plus or minus root 19 over 5. This is the origin of the entire quadratic formula in miniature. Adding the square of half the middle coefficient is the one move that turns any quadratic into a perfect square. Do this on the general equation instead of these numbers and you literally derive the formula. So completing the square isn't a separate method. It's the formula's parent. Watch the right side. A negative there means no real roots. We'll complete the square exactly as before, but this example teaches a new lesson, so keep one eye on the sign of the right-hand side at the very end. Here's our starting equation. First, make the leading coefficient 1 by dividing everything by 4, since completing the square needs a bare x squared. Shift the constant to the right, freeing the left for shaping into a square. Half of the middle coefficient 3/4 is 3/8, again the b/2 from the picture. Add its square, 9/64, to both sides to keep the balance. The left folds into x plus 3/8, all squared, just as designed. On the right, put both terms over 64 to combine them. Simplify the right, minus 80 plus 9 is minus 71, so the right side is minus 71 over 64, a negative number. This is the moment to pause. Now think about what the equation is claiming. Something squared equals a negative. But squaring any real number gives 0 or a positive, never a negative. So no real x can satisfy this, and the equation has no real roots. The completing the square method didn't fail, it revealed the truth. This is the deep reason behind the discriminant. A negative on the right after completing the square is the same thing as a negative under the root in the formula. Both say you're being asked to square root a negative, which is impossible in the reals. That's precisely why b squared minus 4ac being negative means no real roots. One number, b superscript to 4ac, tells the whole story before you solve. Here we don't need the actual roots, just their nature, how many real ones there are. And that's exactly what the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, tells us, without any solving. Remember why, it's the quantity that lives under the square root in the formula. So our only job is to read off a, b and c, and here a is 2, b is minus 4, c is 3. Write the discriminant formula. D equals b squared minus 4ac, so we have a clear template to substitute into. Substitute carefully, and mind the brackets, b is minus 4, so it's minus 4 all squared, the whole negative number gets squared. Work out each piece, minus 4 squared is positive 16, and 4 times 2 times 3 is 24. Simplify, 16 minus 24 is minus 8. A single number now holds the whole answer. The discriminant is negative. And a negative discriminant means the formula would ask for the square root of a negative, which no real number provides, so there are no real roots. Picture it as the parabola floating entirely above the x-axis, never touching. This is the discriminant's whole gift, one quick calculation, no solving, and you already know the count of real roots. Positive gives 2, 0 gives 1 repeated, negative gives none. When a question asks only for the nature of the roots, this shortcut is all you need. Now let's solve every exercise question, breaking each into small, clear steps you can follow. We'll move through 3 exercises in order. 4.1 is about recognizing and forming quadratics. 4.2 is factorizing to find roots. And 4.3 is the discriminant deciding the nature of roots. Watch the same handful of ideas do all the work. Expand each side and see if a real x squared term survives. The test for, is it quadratic, is always the same. An equation qualifies only if, after we expand and tidy fully, a genuine x squared term with non-zero coefficient is still standing. The danger is that x squared can appear on both sides and quietly cancel, so we must simplify each one honestly and look at what's left. Part 1. Expand both sides. X plus 1 squared is x squared plus 2x plus 1, and the right is 2 times x minus 3, which is 2x minus 6. Bring everything left. Watch the x terms, plus 2x meets minus 2x and they cancel, but the x squared has no partner to cancel against, so it survives. That surviving x squared makes it quadratic. Part 2. Only the right side needs expanding, since minus 2 times 3 minus x is minus 6 plus 2x. Sweep all terms to the left and combine. The x squared is untouched and stays, so this is quadratic too. Part 3 is the sneaky one. Expand both products. Left is x squared minus x minus 2. Right is x squared plus 2x minus 3. Notice both carry an identical x squared. Subtract x squared from both sides and it vanishes entirely, leaving only x terms and constants, a linear equation. So despite 2x squareds on show, this is not quadratic. Part 4. Expand both sides. Left is 2x squared minus 5x minus 3, right is x squared plus 5x. Bring everything left. The x squareds don't fully cancel. 2x squared minus x squared leaves 1x squared standing, so this is quadratic. The recurring lesson, simplify before you judge. A squared bracket on each side can cancel and secretly demote a quadratic-looking equation to linear, as in Part 3. The tidied equation, never the raw one, tells the truth. Turn each situation into a single squared unknown equation. This question is pure equation forming. We are not solving, just translating 4 stories into quadratics. The recipe is identical each time. Name one unknown x, express every other quantity through that same x, then turn the given area or product into an equation. Let's apply it 4 times. Story 1. A plot. Let the breadth be x. Length is 1 more than twice the breadth, means twice x is 2x, 1 more is 2x plus 1. A rectangle's area is length times breadth, and that's given as 528, so x times 2x plus 1 equals 528. 2x bearing lengths multiplied, the x squared is guaranteed. Multiply out to 2x squared plus x and move 528 across for standard form. Story 2. Consecutive integers. Consecutive means differing by 1, so the smaller is x and the next is x plus 1, one letter covers both. Their product is 306, so x times x plus 1 equals 306. Expanding gives x squared plus x minus 306 equals 0. Multiplying to consecutive x terms creates the square. Story 3. Ages. Let Rohan's present age be x. His mother is 26 years older, so she is x plus 26. 3 years from now means add 3 to each age, x plus 3 and x plus 29, and their product then is 360. Story 4. The train. And this one hides its square in a fraction. Let the speed be x. Time is distance over speed, so the 480 kilometers takes 480 over x hours. At 8 kilometers per hour slower the speed is x minus 8, and that slower trip takes 3 hours longer. So time slow equals time fast plus 3. 480 over x minus 8 equals 480 over x plus 3. Fractions with x underneath are hard to handle, so multiply every term by x times x minus 8 to clear all denominators at once. That common denominator is chosen precisely to wipe out both fractions. Expand, and here the 3 times x minus 8 finally produces an x squared, tidying to standard form. Collect the cues we just met: area, product, consecutive, and speed with a time change, each quietly force an unknown up to power 2. Recognizing these signals lets you form the quadratic on sight, half the battle in every word problem. To numbers with the right product and some crack it open. Back to factorizing, the fastest route when the numbers are friendly. The engine, as always, is splitting the middle term into two numbers whose product is a point C and whose sum is B. Here A is 1, so a point C is just minus 10, and B is minus 3. So we want two numbers multiplying to minus 10 and adding to minus 3. The negative product tells us the signs are opposite. Minus 5 and plus to do it, minus 5 times 2 is minus 10, and minus 5 plus 2 is minus 3. Both conditions met. Rewrite the middle term minus 3x as minus 5x plus 2x. It's the same thing, just unfolded for grouping. Group into two neighboring pairs. Take x from the first pair and 2 from the second. Both reveal the same bracket x minus 5. Factor out that shared bracket, leaving x plus 2 as the partner. Zero product rule. One factor must be 0. So x equals 5 or x equals minus 2. A handy shortcut worth noticing. When the leading coefficient is 1, the two split numbers are exactly the constants inside the two brackets, just with flipped signs, so here minus 5 and plus to give roots 5 and minus 2 directly. A leading to just means the split uses a point C, not C. Here's the one adjustment when the leading coefficient isn't 1. Many students wrongly split using C alone, but the correct rule uses the product a point C. With a equal to 2, that's 2 times minus 6, which is minus 12, and B is plus 1. So the pair must multiply to minus 12, not to minus 6, and add to plus 1. This is exactly where using C instead of a point C would trip you up. The numbers are 4 and minus 3. They multiply to minus 12 and add to plus 1. Rewrite the middle term plus x as plus 4x minus 3x for grouping. Group the pairs, taking a minus outside the second pair. Pull 2x from the first, 3 from the second, both leave the bracket x plus 2. Factor out the shared bracket with 2x minus 3 as the partner. Zero product rule gives x equals minus 2 or 2x minus 3 equals 0, which is x equals 3 harms. Burn this in. Whenever A is not 1, split by the product A point C, never by C alone. Using C would have you hunting for a pair with product minus 6, and you'd never rebuild the equation correctly. Surds don't change the method. The split still uses A point C. Surds look intimidating but change nothing about the method. Compute A point C as usual. Root 2 times 5 root 2. Root 2 times root 2 is 2, times 5 is a clean 10. The surds cancel into a plain whole number. And B is 7. So we need two numbers with product 10 and sum 7, comfortingly ordinary numbers. Those are 5 and 2. They multiply to 10 and add to 7. Rewrite the middle 7x as 5x plus 2x. Group into pairs, arranging them so a common bracket will emerge. From the first pair pull root 2x. Since root 2x times x is root 2x squared and root 2x times root 2 is 2x, leaving x plus root 2. From the second pull 5, also leaving x plus root 2. The shared bracket x plus root 2 factors out, leaving root 2x plus 5. Zero product rule. X equals minus root 2. Or root 2x plus 5 equals 0, giving x equals minus 5 over root 2. The reassuring point, root 2 times 5 root 2 collapse to a tidy 10 because a surd times itself becomes rational. So even with roots in the equation, A point C is usually a plain number and the split stays as easy as ever. Clear the fraction first, then split as usual. That 1/8 would make the product and sum hunt painful with fractions, so clear it first, multiply every term by 8. 8 times 2x squared is 16x squared. 8 times minus x is minus 8x. 8 times 1/8 is 1. Clean integers now. With integers, compute A point C is 16 times 1, which is 16, and B is minus 8. We want two numbers with product 16 and sum minus 8. A positive product with a negative sum means both numbers are negative. Minus 4 and minus 4 fit. Minus 4 times minus 4 is 16, and their sum is minus 8. Equal numbers, a hint of a repeated root ahead. Split the middle term as minus 4x minus 4x. Group into pairs, taking the minus outside the second pair. Pull 4x from the first and 1 from the second, both leave 4x minus 1. Factor out the common bracket, and it comes out as the same bracket twice, a perfect square. The equal split has paid off. Identical factors mean solving one equation, 4x minus 1 equals 0, so x equals 1/4, a single repeated root. The habit to keep clear fractions before factorizing. Multiplying through by the denominator turns every coefficient into an integer. An integer product and sum searches are far quicker and less error-prone than fractional ones. Big coefficients, but the same product and sum split. Don't be put off by the big 100. Large coefficients obey the same rule. Compute A point C is 100 times 1, which is 100, and B is minus 20. We need product 100 and sum minus 20. Positive product, negative sum, so both numbers are negative. Minus 10 and minus 10 fit, they multiply to 100 and add to minus 20. Equal again, another repeated root incoming. Split the middle term as minus 10x minus 10x. Group into pairs. Pull 10x from the first and 1 from the second, both leave 10x minus 1. Factor out the common bracket, the same bracket twice, a perfect square once more. Identical factors give one repeated root, 10x minus 1 equals 0, so x equals 1/10. Notice the pattern across these last two questions. A perfect square trinomial always factors into the same bracket twice, so its two roots collapse into one. Geometrically, that's the parabola touching the axis at a single point. The discriminant would be exactly 0. The two situations from example 1, now we actually solve them. These are the two stories we translated into quadratics back in example 1. Forming the equation was step 1, and now we do step 2, actually solving them by factorization. Part 1 is John's marbles. X squared minus 45x plus 324 equals 0. Split the middle term, product 324, sum minus 45, both negative. 36 and 9 multiply to 324 and add to 45, so take minus 36 and minus 9. Group the pairs and take the common factor from each. The shared bracket x minus 36 factors out, leaving x minus 9. So John has 36 or 9 marbles. Here's the lovely part, both roots are valid, because Jivanti simply has whatever is left of the 45. If John has 36, Jivanti has 9. If John has 9, Jivanti has 36. Either way the pair is 36 and 9, the two roots are just the two people. Part 2. The toys, whose equation we also formed earlier, x squared minus 55x plus 750 equals 0. Split, product 750, sum minus 55, both negative. 30 and 25 give 750 and 55, so use minus 30 and minus 25. Group, factor each pair, and pull out the common bracket x minus 30. So the number of toys is 30 or 25, both are valid positive whole counts, so both answers are acceptable here. The bigger lesson, forming an equation and solving it, are two distinct skills. In example 1 we built these quadratics. Here we finished the job by factorizing. And note that both roots survived this time. Reject a root only when the story actually forbids it. Sum and product point straight to one quadratic. Sum is 27 is the phrase that lets one letter do everything. If one number is x, the two must total 27, so the other is 27 minus x. The sum condition gives us the second number free. Now the second condition, the product is 182. Multiply the two expressions and set equal to 182. Multiply out to 27x minus x squared. The x times minus x is what conjures the x squared. Move everything to one side and flip signs so the x squared is positive, giving standard form. Split the middle term, product 182, sum minus 27, both negative. 13 and 14 multiply to 182 and add to 27, so take minus 13 and minus 14. Group and take the common factor from each pair. Factor out the shared bracket x minus 13. Zero product rule, x equals 13 or x equals 14. And notice both roots describe the same pair, because if x is 13 the other is 27 minus 13 which is 14, and vice versa. The two roots are simply the two numbers. Sum and product given is a classic quadratic fingerprint. One number is x, the other is the leftover of the sum, and multiplying them makes the square. In fact, this ties directly to the sum and product of roots rules. The two numbers you seek are literally the roots of x squared minus sum x plus product. Consecutive integers share one letter. You may recognize this from example 5, worth redoing so the method sinks in. Consecutive means the integers differ by 1, so let them be x and x plus 1, one letter carrying both. Translate, sum of their squares is 365, square each and add, equals 365. The squaring is what will raise us to power 2. Expand x plus 1 squared as x squared plus 2x plus 1. Keep that middle to x, it's easy to drop by mistake. Combine the two x squareds into 2x squared. Move 365 to the left for standard form. Every coefficient is even, so divide through by 2 to shrink the numbers before factoring. Split the middle term, product minus 182, sum plus 1. Since 182 is 13 times 14, take plus 14 and minus 13. Group, factor each pair, and pull out the common bracket x plus 14. Zero product rule gives x equals minus 14 or x equals 13. The problem says positive integers, so minus 14 is out. Keep x equals 13, and the next consecutive integer is 14. Once more the context filters the answer. The algebra offered minus 14, but positive integers rejects it. Whenever a problem constrains its numbers, positive, whole, a length, check every root against that constraint before writing the final answer. Pythagoras turns the sides into one quadratic. A right triangle problem, so Pythagoras will be our bridge into algebra. Let the base be x. The altitude is 7 less than the base, so it's x minus 7. Naming the base as x lets one letter describe both legs. Pythagoras says the two shorter sides squared and added equal the hypotenuse squared. So base squared plus altitude squared equals 13 squared. Squaring the sides is exactly what generates the quadratic. Expand. X minus 7 squared is x squared minus 14x plus 49, and 13 squared is 169. Combine the two x squareds into 2x squared. Move 169 to the left. 49 minus 169 is minus 120. All coefficients are even, so divide by 2 to keep the split simple. Split the middle term, product minus 60, sum minus 7. 12 and 5 differ by 7, so take minus 12 and plus 5. Group, factor each pair, and pull out the common bracket x minus 12. Zero product rule. X equals 12 or x equals minus 5. A side length can never be negative, so reject minus 5. The base is 12, and the altitude is 12 minus 7, which is 5. The technique to remember Pythagoras is the standard bridge from a geometric right triangle picture to a solvable quadratic. And as always with lengths, discard the negative root. A physical side can't be negative. Number times costage equals total cost. This is the pottery problem from example 6. A good chance to solve it start to finish on your own before I do. Name the unknown we want, the number of articles, as x. Decode, cost of each is 3 more than twice the number. Twice x is 2x, 3 more is 2x plus 3. The price rising with x is what will make this quadratic. Total cost is number times cost each, and it's 90, so x times 2x plus 3 equals 90. Multiply out to 2x squared plus 3x and move 90 across. Since a is 2, split by a point C, 2 times minus 90 is minus 180, and the sum must be 3. 15 and minus 12 work. Group into pairs, minus outside the second. Pull x from the first pair, 6 from the second, both leave 2x plus 15. Factor out the common bracket, leaving x minus 6. Zero product rule. X equals minus 15 halves or x equals 6. A count of articles must be a positive whole number, so the negative fraction is impossible. Keep x equals 6. Then the cost of each is 2 times 6 plus 3, which is 15. Same filtering principle as always. A number of articles can't be negative or fractional, so only the positive whole root stands. And we answered both quantities asked, the count and the cost, not just x. The discriminant answers how many roots first. Now we enter exercise 4.3, all about the discriminant. The question asks for the nature of the roots, and only if real roots exist do we find them, so the discriminant p squared minus 4ac leads, because its sign settles the nature before any solving. Read of A, B and C. A is 2, B is minus 3, C is 5. Write the formula D equals B squared minus 4AC as our template. Substitute, keeping the bracket on B, it's minus 3 all squared. Compute each piece, minus 3 squared is 9, and 4 times 2 times 5 is 40. Simplify, 9 minus 40 is minus 31. The discriminant is negative, which means the formula would need the root of a negative, impossible in the reals, so no real roots exist. Picture the parabola floating clear above the axis. See how the discriminant saves work. Once it comes out negative, we stop, there's nothing real to find, so no solving is needed. Computing the first is always the smart opening move for a nature of roots question. A zero discriminant means one repeated root. Same discriminant first approach, now with a certain B. Read off for is 3, B is minus 4 root 3, and C is 4. The surd only sits in B, the method is unchanged. Write the formula D equals B squared minus 4AC. Substitute, and wrap the whole B in a bracket, minus 4 root 3, all squared. Square that term carefully. Minus 4 squared is 16, and root 3 squared is 3. So together 16 times 3 is 48. The 4ac part is also 48. Simplify. 48 minus 48 is exactly 0. That's the special borderline case. A zero discriminant means to equal real roots. The plus or minus in the formula adds nothing since the root of 0 is 0. So the single root is just minus b over 2, which is 4 root 3 over 6. Simplify. 4 over 6 is 2/3, so it's 2 root 3 over 3, which rationalizes to 2 over root 3. Both roots equal this value. The zero case is worth memorizing. When d is 0, the two roots merge into 1, given cleanly by minus b over 2a. No square root needed at all. Geometrically, it's the parabola touching the x-axis at its single vertex point. A positive discriminant means to distinct real roots. The third case now, a positive discriminant. Read off for is 2, b is minus 6, c is 3, then let the discriminant tell us what to expect. Write the formula d equals b squared minus 4ac. Substitute, bracketing b as minus 6 squared. Compute, minus 6 squared is 36, and 4 times 2 times 3 is 24. Simplify, 36 minus 24 is 12, a positive number. Positive discriminant means to distinct real roots, so now we do go on to find them with the quadratic formula, reusing d under the root, x equals 6 plus or minus root 12 over 4. Simplify the third, root 12 is root 4 times root 3, which is 2 root 3. Every term is divisible by 2, so cancel it, giving x equals 3 plus or minus root 3 over 2 to distinct real roots. So the three cases are now complete across these questions. Negative d gave none, 0 d gave 1, and here positive d guarantees to distinct real roots, delivered by the plus and minus branches of the formula. Notice we only bothered to solve once d told us real roots existed. Equal roots is exactly the discriminant equals 0 condition. This is the discriminant working in reverse. Instead of computing d from known numbers, we're told the roots are equal and asked to find k that makes it so. And equal roots translates precisely to discriminant equals 0. That's our equation for k. Read off for is 2, b is k, c is 3. Write the equal roots condition. B squared minus 4ac equals 0. Substitute, b is k, so k squared minus 4 times 2 times 3. Compute the product. 4 times 2 times 3 is 24. Isolate k squared by moving 24 across. Take the square root of both sides and keep both signs. A squared unknown always allows plus or minus. Simplify root 24 as root 4 times root 6, which is to root 6. So k is plus or minus to root 6. The key phrase to equation translation, equal roots, is code for discriminant equals 0. Set that one condition and it hands you an equation for the unknown parameter, here pinning k to plus or minus to root 6. Expand to standard form before touching the discriminant. Same, equal roots means d equals 0 idea, but there's a trap. The equation isn't in standard form yet. Expand kx times x minus 2 into kx squared minus 2kx plus 6, so we can read the coefficients correctly. Never read a, b, c from an unexpanded equation. Now identify A is k, b is minus 2k, c is 6. Notice a and b both contain k, that's fine. It just makes the discriminant an equation in k. Apply the equal roots condition, discriminant equals 0. Substitute, bracketing b as minus 2k squared and a as k. Expand, minus 2k squared is 4k squared, and 4 times k times 6 is 24k. Both terms share 4k, so factor it out rather than dividing. Dividing by k would risk losing a solution. So k is 0 or 6. But here's the catch to watch for. If k was 0, there would be no x squared term and it wouldn't be a quadratic at all. So we reject k equals 0 and keep k equals 6. 2 cautions to carry forward. Always expand to standard form before reading a, b, c, and when the leading coefficient contains the unknown, reject any value that kills the x squared term. With no x squared, it isn't a quadratic, so only k equals 6 survives. Form the quadratic, then let the discriminant say yes or no. Notice the question first asks, is it possible? That's a job for the discriminant, which decides whether real dimensions can exist. But we must form the equation before we can test it. Let the breadth be x, the length is twice it, so 2x. Area is length times breadth, and it must be 800. X times 2x is 2x squared. Move 800 across for standard form. Note there's no x term, so b is 0. Now the possibility test. With a is 2, b is 0, c is minus 800. The discriminant is 0 squared minus 4 times 2 times minus 800. The two minus signs make it plus, giving 6400. D is positive, so real roots, real dimensions, exist. The design is possible. That's the yes we needed before bothering to solve. Now solve. Divide by 2 to get x squared equals 400. Take the square root. A breadth is a length, so keep only the positive root. X equals 20. Length is twice the breadth, so 2 times 20, which is 40. The powerful idea here, a non-negative discriminant is a yes-no test for whether a real design can even exist. Compute D first. If it's negative, the answer is simply not possible and you needn't solve. If it's 0 or positive, then go find the dimensions. The discriminant decides if such edges can exist. Another, is it possible, question. So again the discriminant will be the judge, but first we form the equation. Let one friend's age be x. The ages sum to 20, so the other friend is 20 minus x. 4 years ago means subtract 4 from each present age, giving x minus 4 and 16 minus x. Their product back then was 48, so multiply the two past ages and set equal to 48. Expand the brackets term by term, watching signs. Collect like terms, 16x plus 4x is 20x. Move 48 across and flip signs so x squared is positive, reaching standard form. Now the possibility test. With A is 1, B is minus 20, C is 112. Compute the discriminant. Minus 20 squared is 400, and 4 times 112 is 448. So D is 400 minus 448, which is minus 48. The discriminant is negative, meaning no real value of x fits, so no such pair of real edges can exist. The situation is impossible. A negative discriminant is a firm mathematical no. The described situation simply cannot occur in reality. This is the discriminant's real-world power. It tells you when a problem has no valid answer at all, before you waste time hunting for one. Perimeter gives the sum, area gives the product. Here two facts combine neatly. Perimeter gives a sum, area gives a product. Perimeter 80 means length plus breadth is half of that, 40. So if length is x, breadth is 40 minus x, the perimeter hands us the second dimension for free. The area condition, length times breadth is 400. Multiply out to 40x minus x squared. Move everything to one side and flip signs for standard form. Possibility test, with A is 1, B is minus 40, C is 400, compute the discriminant. Minus 40 squared is 1600, and 4 times 400 is also 1600, so D is exactly 0, the borderline case. A zero discriminant means real and equal roots exist, so yes, the design is possible, and equal roots hint the park will be special. With D0 the single root is minus B over 2 which is 40 over 2, giving x equals 20. Then breadth is 40 minus 20, also 20, length equals breadth, so this park is actually a square. A neat interpretation, a zero discriminant gave a single repeated dimension, so length equals breadth and the park is a perfect square. The three exercises 3, 4 and 5 have now shown all three discriminant outcomes deciding whether a real design can exist, positive yes, zero yes and unique, negative no. Let's lock it all in with exam-style questions before you go. In the exam, the fastest marks come from the shortcuts we've built, the discriminant for the nature of roots, and sum equals minus B over A with product equals C over or for the roots themselves, so watch how often we answer without fully solving. Factorize by finding two numbers with product 6 and sum minus 5. Since A is 1, those two numbers become the bracket constants directly. Consider the four options. Minus 2 and minus 3 multiply 2 plus 6 and add to minus 5, so the equation factors as x minus 2 times x minus 3, and setting each bracket to 0 gives roots plus 2 and plus 3. Option A. Watch the sign trap. Option B. Minus 2 and minus 3 are the numbers we split with, not the roots. The roots flip sign because x minus 2 equals 0 gives x is plus 2. Options C and D multiply to 6 but don't add to minus 5, so they never fit. Don't try to factorize. The question asks only for the nature, so compute the discriminant b squared minus 4ac, because its sign alone decides. Consider the four options. Here A, B and C are all 1, so the discriminant is 1 squared minus 4 times 1 times 1, that's 1 minus 4, which is minus 3. A negative discriminant means the formula would ask for the root of a negative, impossible in the reals, so there are no real roots. Option C, options A and B are wrong because those need a positive or zero discriminant, and option D, exactly one real root, is a distractor. A quadratic never has exactly one distinct root unless the discriminant is 0, which would still be counted as two equal roots. Use the shortcut. The sum of the roots equals minus b over a, so no solving is needed. Recall this comes from the quadratic formula. The two roots plus root and minus root parts cancel, leaving minus b over a. Consider the four options. Here a is 2 and b is minus 7, so sum of roots is minus b over a, which is minus of minus 7 over 2. The two minus signs make it plus, giving 7 halves, option A. The classic trap is option B, minus 7 halves. That's what you get if you forget B is already negative and drop a minus sign. Option C, 3 halves, is C over A, the product not the sum, and option D is unrelated. Think back to the parabola. Equal roots is the case where it just touches the axis, and that's exactly the zero discriminant condition. Consider the four options. Two equal roots occur precisely when b squared minus 4ac equals 0, option B. Because the root of 0 is 0, so the plus and minus branches of the formula collapse into one value. Option A, greater than 0, gives two distinct roots, option C, less than 0, gives no real roots, and option D, not equal to 0, is too loose since it lumps together the two root and no root cases. Only exactly 0 pins down equal. Use the second shortcut. The product of the roots equals C over A, no solving needed. This too falls out of the formula, where the plus root and minus root multiply as a difference of squares. Consider the four options. Here A is 1 and C is 3, so product of roots is C over A, which is 3 over 1, giving 3, option C. The trap is option A, 4, that's minus b over A, the sum of the roots, which is easy to confuse with the product. Watch which quantity the question asks for. Sum carries the minus sign on B, product is just plain C over A. Assertion reason needs three separate judgments. Is the assertion true on its own? Is the reason true on its own? And crucially, does the reason actually explain the assertion? Test each independently before deciding which option is correct. First, the assertion, substitute minus 3 and minus 4 into x squared plus 7x plus 12, both give 0, and their sum minus 7 matches minus b over a while their product 12 matches c over a, so the assertion is true. Now the reason, the product of roots rule, product equals c over a, is a genuine true statement too. But here's the subtle part. Does that rule, by itself, produce these particular roots? No. Knowing only that the product is 12 could give many pairs, it doesn't single out minus 3 and minus 4. So both statements are true, yet the reason is not the correct explanation of the assertion. That's option B. Test the assertion by computing the discriminant, then judge whether the reason is the actual rule that makes the assertion true. Which option is correct? Test the assertion first. For 2x squared minus 4x plus 3, the discriminant is minus 4 squared minus 4 times 2 times 3, that's 16 minus 24, which is minus 8. Negative, so no real roots, the assertion is true. Now the reason, a quadratic has no real roots when its discriminant is negative, is exactly the general rule, so it's true. And this time the reason really does explain the assertion. It's the precise principle we just applied to reach the conclusion. So both true, and the reason explains the assertion. Option A. Contrast this with the previous one, where the reason was true but didn't actually cause the assertion. Spotting that difference is the whole skill. A gardener's plan hides a quadratic. This case study walks the full arc we've practiced. Form the equation, solve it, then interpret the answer back in the real situation. Let's do all three parts together. Breadth is x, and length is 5 more than breadth, makes the length x plus 5. Area is length times breadth, equal to 84, and multiplying two x expressions is what creates the square. So breadth times length, x times x plus 5, equals 84, multiply out and move 84 across, giving x squared plus 5x minus 84 equals 0. That's our quadratic formed. Split the middle term. Since a is 1, we need product minus 84 and sum plus 5. 12 and 7 differ by 5, and to get plus 5 with the negative product take plus 12 and minus 7. Grouping and factoring gives x plus 12 times x minus 7 equals 0, so by the zero product rule x is minus 12 or plus 7. Both are mathematically valid for now. This is the interpret back step. A breadth is a real length, so it can't be negative. Reject x equals minus 12 and keep x equals 7. The length is 5 more than that. Rejecting the negative root as physically impossible, the breadth is 7 meters and the length, 5 more, is 12 meters. Notice the full arc. We formed, solved, and then let the real situation filter the answer, exactly the 3-step habit for every word problem. Clear the fractions first, then plug into the formula. The question tells us to use the quadratic formula, the completing the square result we derived, guaranteed to work on any quadratic. But fractions would make A, B and C messy, so first multiply every term by 5 to clear them. Now read off clean whole number coefficients. A is 5, B is minus 2, C is minus 3. Compute the discriminant first. It lives under the root and tells us what kind of roots to expect. Minus 2 squared is 4, and minus 4 times 5 times minus 3 is plus 60, so D is 64. 64 is positive, so to real roots, and it's a perfect square, so they'll come out clean. Its square root is 8. Apply the formula, x equals minus b, that's plus 2, plus or minus 8, over 2 which is 10. Take the plus branch, to plus 8 is 10, over 10 is 1. Take the minus branch, to minus 8 is minus 6, over 10 is minus 3/5. The plus or minus is exactly what delivers both roots. The habit that keeps the formula tidy. Clear fractions first so A, B and C are whole numbers. And computing the discriminant before substituting doubles as a check, a perfect square D like 64 warns you the answers should come out neat, so ugly numbers would signal an arithmetic slip. Time equals distance over speed. That difference makes a quadratic. The engine here is time equals distance over speed. Let the actual speed be x. At speed x, the 360 kilometers takes 360 over x hours. At x plus 5 it takes 360 over x plus 5, and that faster trip saves 1 hour, so the slower time minus the faster time equals 1. Combine the two fractions over the common denominator x times x plus 5, so we can work with a single fraction. Simplify the top. 360 times x plus 5 minus 360x leaves 360 times 5, which is 1800. The x's cancel neatly on top. Cross multiply, and this is where the quadratic is born. 1800 equals x times x plus 5, so x squared plus 5x equals 1800. Move 1800 across for standard form. Split the middle term, product minus 1800, sum plus 5. 45 and 40 differ by 5, so take plus 45 and minus 40, giving the two brackets. Zero product rule gives x equals minus 45 or 40. A speed can't be negative, so reject minus 45 and keep x equals 40. The signature to recognize a time difference clue with distance over speed always builds a quadratic once you clear the fractions. And as with every physical quantity, reject the negative root. A speed of minus 45 is meaningless, so 40 kilometers per hour is the answer. Real and equal roots means the discriminant is zero. The phrase, real and equal roots is our trigger. It means the discriminant is exactly zero, and that becomes our equation for k. Read off for is k, b is minus 2 root 5, c is 4. Write the zero discriminant condition, b squared minus 4ac equals 0. Substitute, bracketing the whole b, minus 2 root 5, all squared, and is k. Square that term carefully. Minus 2 squared is 4, root 5 squared is 5, so 4 times 5 is 20, and 4 times k times 4 is 16k. Move the k term to the other side. Divide by 16 and simplify. 20 over 16 reduces to 5 quarters. Once more the translation does the heavy lifting. Real and equal roots means discriminant equals 0, which turns straight into a single equation for the unknown k. Recognize that phrase and these parameter finding problems become almost mechanical. Before the exam, let's lock in everything from this chapter: the key formulas, the smart shortcuts, the traps to dodge, and a couple of memory hooks. And I won't just list the formulas, I'll remind you where each one comes from, because a formula you understand is one you'll never forget under exam pressure. Here is the backbone of the chapter. Every quadratic can be written in the standard form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, with a not 0 and a must not be 0, because without the x squared term it would only be linear. The quadratic formula solves any of them. X equals minus b plus or minus the root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Remember, it isn't magic to memorize blindly. It comes straight from the completing the square identity shown below. Add half the middle coefficient, squared, and the left side folds into a perfect square. Do that on the general equation and the formula drops out. That's why it never fails on any quadratic. It's completing the square done once, for all of them. This card is your shortcut. The discriminant, d, is b squared minus 4ac, and it's the exact quantity sitting under the square root in the formula, which is why it controls everything. Its sign alone reads the nature of the roots. Positive means a real square root with two branches, so two distinct real roots. 0 means the root is 0, so the branches merge into one repeated root. Negative means you'd be square rooting a negative, impossible in the reals, so no real roots. And there's more you get for free. The sum of the roots is minus b over a and the product is c over a. These come from the formula too. since adding the plus root and minus root cancels the surd to give minus b over a, and multiplying them is a difference of squares that collapses to c over a. So you can know the sum and product without solving at all. A smart order of attack, and here's why it works. Always try factorizing first. Look for two numbers with product a times c and sum b. Those two conditions are what let the four terms group into two matching brackets. If the numbers are clean whole numbers, split the middle term and you're done in seconds, far faster than the formula. But if they turn ugly or don't exist as integers, that's your signal the roots aren't rational, so stop hunting and reach for the quadratic formula, which always works. Factorize when you can, formula when you must. When a question asks only about the nature of the roots, real, equal, or none, never waste time solving the whole equation. The nature lies entirely in the discriminant, so compute b squared minus 4ac and read its sign. Positive, 0, negative maps to 2, 1, none. That's the whole answer, and it's often just a single line of arithmetic. Solving fully when only the nature is asked throws away easy time in the exam. For word problems, follow 3 moves every single time. First, name one unknown with a letter, usually the quantity the question actually asks for. Second, express every other quantity in terms of that letter, using clues like consecutive, sum, or more than, then build the equation from the area, product, or time condition. Third, and students forget this one, after solving reject any root the story forbids, a length, a speed, or a count of objects can never be negative, and a count can't be a fraction. Name, express, reject, that rhythm cracks almost every quadratic word problem. The most common slip of all, writing the formula with only a plus sign and quietly losing a root. Here's why the plus or minus must be there. When you take the square root of both sides while completing the square, a positive number has two square roots, one positive and one negative, and those two branches are precisely the two roots of the quadratic. Drop the plus or minus and you've thrown away half your solution and half your marks. Always write both. Don't scramble the 3 discriminant cases. Students mix them up under pressure. Anchor them to the parabola picture. A positive discriminant means the curve dips through the axis at 2 points, so two distinct roots. Exactly 0 means the vertex just kisses the axis at 1 point, so a single repeated root, and negative means the curve floats clear of the axis, touching nowhere, so no real roots. Picture the parabola and you'll never match the sign to the wrong case. Here's a memory hook for the discriminant, tied to what it means. D positive, 2, the curve cuts twice. D 0, 1, it just touches. D negative, none, it never reaches the axis. Say the rhythm, D positive 2, D 0, 1, D negative none, once, picture the parabola sliding down, and you'll never mix up the 3 cases again. And one for the roots without solving, sum is minus b over a, product is c over a. The way to keep them straight is minus b, plain c, the sum wears the minus sign on b, the product is just plain c over a. And remember, these aren't arbitrary, they fall out of the formula, where adding the 2 roots cancels the surd to leave minus b over a, and multiplying them as a difference of squares leaves c over a. Understand that once, and the hook sticks. In 60 seconds, the whole chapter as one connected idea. Every quadratic is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. You can solve it three ways: factorize by splitting the middle term when the numbers are friendly, complete the square by filling the missing corner, or use the formula, which is just completing the square done once for all quadratics, and always keep the plus or minus so you get both roots. Sitting under that root is the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, which counts the real roots by its sign, 2, 1, or none, matching the parabola cutting, kissing, or clearing the axis. And for free, the sum of the roots is minus b over a and the product is c over a. Hold that single thread and you're exam ready.